When you think about making 3D characters or environments in VFX-heavy movies, modeling and sculpting are the first things that come to mind. You know, the way it has always been done. But another technique has become over the years a very important part of the VFX industry, and that is 3D scanning and photogrammetry. At its core, it is the process of taking overlapping photos from different angles and reconstructing a three-dimensional model out of them. The end result is a digital version of whatever was photographed, an actor, a prop, or a whole environment, complete with real textures and geometry. This doesn't mean photogrammetry replaced other techniques. Instead, it is used in a certain way that allows artists to save time and effort. What's interesting is how it went from being an experiment in the 80s, in addition to the 90s, to something so common today that we cannot work without. Before we continue, I want to let you guys know that the super high market is going through its biggest sale of the year. So if you want to get some add-ons, texture packs, courses, you name it, it is the best time to do so. And if you don't know where to start, I have in the description of this video a list of some of the best add-ons and courses out there. Without further ado, let's jump right in. In the 1980s, when laser scanning first appeared, Industrial Light and Magic famously scanned actors' faces with a cyberware laser rig in Star Wars 4 in 1986 for a brief warp sequence. It was crude, but it proved you could capture real human shapes and use them in VFX. Around the same time, academic research started pointing toward image-based modeling. Paul Debevic's late 90s work on reconstructing geometry and lighting from photographs is often cited as a foundation for the methods we use today. And by the early 2000s, VFX teams began experimenting with this. Fincher's Panic Room used on-set photos to help build a 3D replica of the house for sweeping camera moves. These weren't proven pipelines, at least not yet, but they showed what could be done if you capture the real world in detail and then rebuild it digitally. The mid-2000s is when photogrammetry and 3D scanning started being used for more than isolated shots. A good example is Quantum of Solace in 2008, which set up a multi-camera array in a vertical wind tunnel to capture actors in a simulated freefall. From those images, VFX artists built digital doubles with realistic facial detail and body shapes, then rendered new camera angles that couldn't have been filmed. It was an early proof that photogrammetry could deliver usable, production-ready assets. And here is the interesting thing. Once digital cameras improved, and software such as reality capture and Metashape became available, the barrier dropped. You see, what had been days or weeks of processing became just hours. Studios realized they could scan not just actors, but entire sets. This shift turned photogrammetry from a special effect to an essential part of the VFX production pipeline. On modern productions, you will often see a dedicated scanning unit. Their job is to capture anything that might need a digital version later. This can mean drone and ground photogrammetry of a location of every angle, or photographing entire sets after they have been dressed so they can be reconstructed if reshoots or extensions are needed later. Actors and stunt performers often run through a photogrammetry booth lined up with 100 or more synced cameras to produce a cyberscan. Props, costumes, and even vehicles can be captured the same way, with full 360-degree coverage. All of this material usually goes straight into storage, whether or not it is needed immediately. If the director later wants a new camera move or reshoots are impossible, the VFX team already has the scans to rebuild the moment digitally. A good example is location scanning. A building or landscape might be captured in high detail, so it can be recreated virtually. This digital twin can be then extended, destroyed, or relit as needed. For TV shows or movies across different locations, this avoids the expense of repeatedly flying actors back and forth to different locations. Actors are scanned early in production, often in full costumes. The multi-camera rig fires in an instant, generating a dense 3D mesh with texture maps. These digital doubles are then rigged for animation, so they can take over whenever the real actor can't. Because the scans include every fold of fabric and every skin pore, they hold up well in close-up shots. Crowd scenes are another common use. productions will scan extras and costumes to build a library of unique characters. Those can then be instanced into crowd simulations, making background armies or stadium audiences look far less repetitive than the old 2D sprite approach. And by the way, props can go through the same process. Hero items like weapons, helmets, or cars are often scanned so that the 3D version can be swept in seamlessly. Even animals have been scanned for creature work, giving artists anatomically accurate bases which they can build upon. There have been actually experiments with performance capture via photogrammetry. For Ghost in the Shell in 2017, an array of 80 cameras recorded actors at 24 frames per second, creating a frame-by-frame 3D snapshots, basically a volumetric video. It is not common yet, but it points toward photogrammetry, moving from static scans to motion capture of both shape and appearance. Plenty of productions show how central photogrammetry has become. The Mandalorian is probably the most cited case. The LED wall backdrops use scans of real deserts and cliffs, so when the Unreal Engine projected them, the parallax and surface detail came from the actual terrain data instead of hand-sculpted meshes. Game studios actually leaned into the same idea years ago. DICE pushed hard with Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, scanning rocks, mud, trees, even old rifles to make the war zones feel grounded. Other studios later followed that example, building their own scanning pipelines because it was faster than sculpting everything from scratch, in addition to being more convincing on screen. This momentum spilled over into asset libraries. Quixel Megascans is probably the best known, which grew out of large-scale surface in addition to vegetation captures, and has since become standard across games and film. When you load up a Megascans Rock in Unreal, you are looking at the same type of scan that VFX team use for set extensions and digital environments. Similar libraries and companies have built up around the same model, making scan data as common as stock textures used to be. On Napoleon, they scanned more than 100 locations and created thousands of cyberscans of props and performers, and captured over 1 million photos, which is insane to think about. They also handle historic buildings and heritage projects, where scanning is often the only way to get usable assets without disturbing the site. The technology, however, comes with clear limitations that VFX artists work around every single day. Other than the necessary hardware that you would expect, reflective or transparent surfaces like glass, chrome, or water often confuse the reconstruction process because the software can't track consistent detail across photos. Highly uniform surfaces, like a black-white wall, are another challenge, since the algorithm has nothing distinctive to latch onto. In those cases, artists often need to add tracking markers or rely on LiDAR scanning instead. Scale can also be an issue. Capturing a small prop or costume is quite easy, but scanning an entire city block or dense forest introduces problems with coverage, in addition to lighting shifts and the sheer volume of data. So as you can imagine, the denser the scan, the more cleanup and optimization is required before being usable in a production pipeline. As you can already tell, the raw output from photogrammetry isn't a finished model. What you usually get is a dense, messy mesh, which is full of imperfections and holes where the camera couldn't capture the surface, in addition to blurry patches caused by reflective materials or extra noise from the inconsistent lighting. The first step is running a photo set throughout the software, like Reality Capture or Metashape, which generates the initial dense mesh and textures. From there, the model needs to be retopologized in a software such as Maya, Max, or Blender, so it can be actually animated or deformed in production. 3D artists will then bake the high-resolution details into normal maps or displacement maps, which preserve the scan surface information on a more manageable mesh. Even the textures need a pass, since color shifts between photos are common and have to be corrected for consistency. Photogrammetry often relies on LiDAR to complement it, which captures precise geometry using lasers. As I said, the two complement each other. LiDAR gives you clean large-scale structures, while photogrammetry captures texture and surface detail. Combining both creates a robust dataset, especially for sets or large environments. It is also tightly linked to virtual production. the digital environments displayed on LED walls in shows like The Mandalorian also begin with photogrammetric scans of real landscapes brought into a real engine. Because the parallax and detail are grounded in real photos, those backdrops feel more convincing compared to the hand-modeled ones. You see, in-games photogrammetry has had a parallel rise. Studios scan real props, rocks, and architecture to build hyper-detailed worlds, because those assets can move between real-time engines and offline renderers more easily now. The same scans may show up in both console titles and feature film pipelines, which is really interesting to think about. And here's the funny thing. In the early days, there has been concerns among 3D game developers and VFX artists that 3D scanning may replace them, especially modelers. But the prevailing view right now is that it serves as a tool to augment and transform the modeling process rather than eliminate it. The initial skepticism was common, similar to the introduction of other technologies like motion capture. However, 3D artists have consistently adopted. And because it doesn't solve every problem, it doesn't replace modeling, sculpting, or motion capture. So artists still have to process, retopologize, and animate stuff. But the good thing is, it shortens the path from reality to usable digital assets, and it brings over details that would be very tedious or sometimes impossible to recreate by hand. And there you have it, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe to this channel because a lot of content is on the way. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.